Hello students, welcome to KENE'S Educare, a group of KENE solutions. This is part 4 of lesson Is Matter Around Us Pure? Right? Now as we are on to part 4 and you all know like whatever we were discussing in the last class, right? We discussed more about matter, what exactly matter is. Then we discussed about elements, how to calculate mass by mass, mass by volume, volume by mass, everything in detail, right? We were doing that itself in the last class. And then we started discussing on, you can say, like today we will be starting with the different concept that we have, right? So whatever notes you have taken in your book, I just want each one of you to please go through it, because today we will be starting with suspension, the properties of suspension, then we will discuss about the colloidal solution. So in the last class we have completed with solutions, what are the properties of solutions, and we have discussed on different types of solutions that we have diluted solution, concentrated solution, right? So I just want each one of you to please go through it once. I hope everyone is going through it. Okay, so we started this lesson by discussing about the classifications of matter. So I just want each one of you to please go through it once. After this, we discussed on like what exactly mixtures are, right? So here we have information on mixtures and different examples of mixtures are also been given over here. So I just want each one of you to please go through it. I hope everyone is going through this slide. After this, we discussed on types of mixtures, right? So here we have two different types of mixtures, homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture, right? So I just want each one of you to please go through this. After this, we discussed on this activity 2.2. Now we know that this activity that we have over here is a group activity, right? And in this group activity, what you all have done, you all have like taken different types of you can say components. Like group A will have crystals of copper sulfate, group B will have one spatula full of copper sulfate, group C will have wheat flour, and group D will have like few drops of milk or ink into group D, right? And then we have to stir it properly using glass rod and filter it using the filter paper. Now the filtration mechanism is very well explained over here, so I just want you all to go through this, and when you do this, you become aware that group A and B, they have got a solution. Okay, group C has got a suspension and group D has got a colloidal solution. So I just want each one of you to please go through it once. After this, we discussed on like what exactly a solution is. So I just want each one of you to please go through it once. I hope everyone is going through it. So here we have like information on three different types of solutions as well. That is diluted solution, concentrated solution, and saturated solution, right? After this, like, we discussed on, what I did. We discussed on the examples of it, right? So I just want each one of you to please go through it once. After this, like studying about the examples, we discussed on properties of solution. So we now know that solution is a homogeneous mixture and all the particles of a solution are going to be smaller than 1 nanometer. It means it is going to range between 10 to 9, like 10 raised to minus 9 meter. 1 nanometer is equal to 10 raised to minus 9. Now minus 9 should go on the top. Okay, and here we have like even examples of some homogeneous mixtures which have been given. So I want you all to please go through this slide very properly. After this we discussed on like concentration of a solution, right? So here we had like diluted solution, concentrated solution, saturated solution. And on this slide we have the definition of concentrated, dilute, and you can say we have like two different definitions, like what exactly concentration of solution is, okay, what are dilute solution and what are concentrated solution. So I just want you all to please go through like all the three definitions which have been given, because like you can get these definitions for 1 marks for sure. After this we discussed on this activity, so I just want you all to please go through it once as well. After this activity, like we discussed on like how to calculate the concentration of solution by three methods. But before that, we have definition on saturated and unsaturated solutions, right? So this slide is also very important, and I want each one of you to please go through it properly. I hope everyone is even going through the, you can say, methods or the way how we can express it, right? That is also very important. So I hope every one of you are going through it. I hope everyone has gone through it. Like if you remember, we had even discussed one example, like how to exactly solve, or like how to exactly come out with a proper answer and how to calculate it, right? So I'll show you that example as well. See, this is the example for how like you can exactly calculate it, right? So I just want each one of you to please go through it once. So now we need to study what exactly suspension is, right? So see, like we will be starting with the properties of suspension, what exactly it is. So suspension is going to be a heterogeneous mixture, and all the particles of suspension can be seen by your naked eye. So it means suspensions can be visible to our naked eye. It is going to be visible to us. Okay. So the particles of suspension scatter a beam of light passing through it, and it can make a path visible. Getting it? So whatever the particles of suspensions are, as I told you that they are going to be visible to us, right? So they are going to scatter a beam of light which is going to pass through it and make its path visible. What will it do? It is going to make the path visible for us. So the solute particles settle down when a suspension is left undisturbed. So if you are not disturbing the suspension, what will happen? All the solute particle will go and settle down in the suspension. Okay, and like it is going to go and settle down at the bottom if we keep it undisturbed, and then we can say that the suspension is unstable. Okay, so they can be separated from the mixture. Now if we have to separate any particle, we can separate it from the mixture by the process of filtration. How can we separate it? By the process of filtration. So when the particles settle down, see, just imagine the particles settling down. Whenever they're going to settle down, the suspension will break and it will not scatter any more light. Okay, so this is what they have like given us the properties of suspensions as, that the particles of suspensions like will be visible by our naked eye. Okay, they are going to scatter a beam of light, because of which the path will become visible. Okay, then the solute particles will settle down when the suspension is left undisturbed. That is, if we are not disturbing the suspension, the solute particle will settle down and the suspension will become unstable in that case. But we can separate that by using the process of filtration. Okay, and whenever the suspension particles are getting settled down, in that case the suspension will break down and it is not going to scatter any more light further. Okay, so I just want you all to like write the properties of suspensions, but before writing it, make sure you are understanding it. Okay. I hope everyone is like every one of you have understood this and you all are also taking a note of it in your book. I hope everyone have are writing the properties of suspension. Now you can see the difference that they have shown over here in the picture as well, where how exactly the solution is looking, how the suspension is looking, and how precipitation is taking place, right? Okay. After this, now we have the Tyndall effect to study. Now see, how can we observe this Tyndall effect? So we can observe this when sunlight passes through, you can say, canopy of a dense forest. Okay, now suppose it's a dense forest, or whenever you go and visit any beach where we have many different trees all together. Okay, so in that case you will see the Tyndall effect taking place. Okay, so when sunlight is going to pass through this canopy of dense forest, in the forest some mist are going to contain tiny droplets of water, which is going to act as particles of colloid dispersed in water. Okay, what it is going to have? Particles of colloid which will be dispersed in water. Okay. Okay, now see, next after suspensions we have some of the properties of colloid. So colloid is a heterogeneous mixture. What it is? Now along with suspension, now the first statement given in suspension was same, that suspension is a heterogeneous mixture, right? Same way, colloid is a heterogeneous mixture, and the size of particles of colloid is too small to be individually seen by a naked eye. But whereas in suspensions we saw that we can see it by naked eye, right? But the size of particles of colloid, they are too small to be individually seen by naked eye, but these colloids are big enough to scatter a beam of light passing through it and make its path visible. Okay, but when it comes to the size of the particle, the size is very small, but colloids are going to be big enough, which is going to help us in scattering the beam of light that is going to pass through it. Okay, and make the light like path visible for us. So they do not settle down when left undisturbed, that is a colloid is quite stable. Okay, what colloid is? Colloid is quite stable, and we cannot separate them from mixture by the process of filtration. Now always know this, that colloid cannot be separated from the mixture by the process of filtration, but there is a special technique of separation which we know it as centrifugation technique. So using this centrifugation technique, it is possible to separate the colloidal mixture. Got it? So if you get a question like how can we separate the colloidal mixture, so it is through centrifugation method. Now what exactly has been done in centrifugation machine? We have like small tube like thing which has been like added inside the centrifugal machine, and then it has been rotated at a very high speed. So that is how like we can separate this by the process of like centrifugation. Okay, and we can separate all the colloidal particles. So the component of a colloidal solution, they are dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. Okay, all the components of a colloidal solution, they are going to be in dispersed phase and they are going to have this dispersion medium. Okay, and the solute like component or the dispersed particle in colloid, they are going to form dispersed phase, and the component in which the dispersed phase is suspended. Now like we studied about the solute and solution, like what is a solute and what is a solvent, same way we have this dispersed phase and the dispersing medium. Okay, so the solute like component or the dispersed particle in a colloid, they are going to form dispersed phase. Okay, what will happen, the dispersed particles are going to form dispersed phase, and the component in which the dispersed phase is suspended, that component will be like known as the dispersing medium, the medium in which we are adding the dispersed particle. Okay, then further colloids are classified according to the state, like we have three different states: solid, liquid and gas. So we can classify the colloids according to the state of the dispersing medium and the dispersed phase. So once we know like what is the state of the colloid dispersing medium, based on that classifying these colloids will become easier. Okay, so I just want you all to please go through it once, and then after that please take a note of it as well. I hope everyone is writing all the points. So here we have few examples which have been given in the table, and from this table we can see that they are very common in everyday life, right? So we have dispersed phase as solid, liquid and gases which have been given, the dispersing medium, the type and examples are given, right? So the type includes like we have aerosol, foam, emulsion, solution, then solid solution, gel and everything. And the examples, just look at the example that we have. It includes like fog, cloud, smoke, face cream, milk of magnesia, jelly, cheese, butter, and there are so many things which have been given, right? So I just want you all to please go through it once. I hope everyone is going through it, the examples of colloid. Even I want you all to write like what exactly they have explained over here. Okay. So even I want you to like, I hope everyone has like taken note of examples. Now we have the next thing, that is separating the components of mixture, where we have to discuss about evaporation, centrifugation, separating funnels, sublimation, chromatography, distillation, everything in detail. Okay, so I'll just introduce about how the separating the components of the mixture work, right? So see, we have learned that most of the natural substances are not chemically pure. Okay, what are they? They are not chemically pure, and different methods of separations are used to get individual components from a mixture. So when we are calculating the individual component from a mixture, we use different methods of separation, because if I keep on using one single method for like separating the mixture, that will be like very difficult for us, right? Because filtration cannot be applied to each and every process that we have. So that is why we use different methods of separation, so that we can get some individual components from a mixture. Okay, and separation makes it possible to study and use the individual components of mixture, because if we have to study and use different components, in that case separation technique needs to be used, right? So separation always makes it possible for us to study and use the individual components which are present in it. Okay, and heterogeneous mixtures can be separated into their respective constituents by simple physical methods. Now, if we are having any, you can say, heterogeneous mixture, and when we have to like separate that heterogeneous mixture, we are going to use certain physical methods, like we will be using hand picking method, we will be using sieving method, filtration method in our day-to-day life. Okay, because that is very important. Okay, so sometimes special techniques have to be used for the separation of the components of mixture. So whenever we have to like apply or use any method, we have to make sure that we are using it in that way. Okay, so these are the different methods which have been used, and I want you all to like write a note of the different methods which have been used over here. I hope everyone is writing the methods which have been used to separate the component of mixture, right? And there are like certain methods given on top as well, like heterogeneous mixtures, they can be separated into their respective constituent by some of the physical methods, right? And those physical methods includes like hand picking method, sieving method, filtration method, which we make use of in our day-to-day life. So I just want you all to please write that and all the methods which have been given over here, because we are going to like you can say study each and every method, how exactly they have been performed. Okay. So now after this, in the next class, we are going to study about like how can we obtain colored component, that is dye, from a blue or a black ink. So we are going to study that through activity. Okay, and this is how are we going to do it? Through the process of evaporation. So this is one of the technique that we will be studying. After that, we will be discussing on like how can we separate the cream from the milk. Okay, and that is again going to be through an activity 2.5. After this activity, we will be discussing on how can we separate a mixture of two immiscible liquid. So we discussed that through activity 2.6, and there is an application which has been given over here like of like separation of immiscible liquids, how exactly they have been done. So over here we use the separating funnel, and the principle of that has also been explained. Okay, then we will be discussing on like how can we separate a mixture of salt and a camphor, because if you have seen a camphor powder, you might be knowing like how exactly they can be separated, right? So we can separate them through the process called as sublimation. Sublimation is a technique which has been used over there. Then we are even going to discuss on whether the ink that we have, the black ink, is it a single color or is it having many different colors, like it is made up of many different colors altogether. So we will be discussing on that as well, and that process through which we are going to discuss it is called as chromatography. So we will be even discussing about the chromatography technique. Then we will discuss on like how can we separate a mixture of two miscible liquids, and that again is going to be through an activity, and the process through which we separate a mixture of two miscible liquid, we know that process as distillation process. Okay, what is this process called as? Distillation process. After distillation, like we will be discussing on fractional distillation, we will be discussing on like you can say the other normal different distillation process as well. Okay, after that we will be discussing on like how can we obtain different gases from air. Okay, what are we going to discuss? How can we obtain different gases from air? We'll discuss that. Then we will be discussing on like how can we obtain pure copper sulfate from an impure sample. Okay, what we will discuss? How can we obtain pure copper sulfate from an impure sample? We'll discuss that in detail. After that we will discuss on this activity 2.9, where we will be studying the process of crystallization in detail, like what exactly crystallization is. Okay, after that we have like the application of it as well, what exactly crystallization is. Then okay, then we will be discussing on the physical and the chemical changes in detail, like what exactly physical and chemical changes are. Then we will be discussing on like what are the types of pure substances in detail. Then we will be discussing about elements, what exactly elements are. Then we will be discussing on the properties of metals. Now you should be knowing the properties of metals and non-metals in detail. Okay, after discussing the properties of metals and non-metals, we will be discussing on what exactly compounds are. Okay, and after discussing about compounds, we again have an activity 2.10 to discuss, and after discussing that activity, we will be discussing on the difference between mixtures and compounds, which you should be knowing as well, like what exactly are the difference that exist. Okay, then we'll discuss the summary discussion of it, what exactly we have studied in the whole lesson. Is matter around us pure? We will discuss that in detail. And after discussing this in detail, like summary discussion, we have some of the exercise question as well, which I'm going to show you one by one, and I want each one of you to please go through it once. I hope everyone is going through the exercise questions that I'm showing you on slide. So this is how we are going to end up with the lesson, is matter around us pure? And I hope whatever we discussed today about suspensions and colloidal solutions, you are clear with it, and you are even clear with the previous concepts that we have discussed so far. Okay, so the rest of the the rest of the part which has been left, that is all the, you can say, all the methods of separating. We will be studying that in the next class. Okay, but make sure you all are revising whatever we have studied so far. Okay, so I'll end the session for now. Thank you everyone.